just several hours earlier, actually maybe just an hour earlier. And at that time, troopers had asked them to come out of the house. They asked everyone, including Kevin Walpern's daughter and her children, to come out of the house. They needed to search the house. What Kevin was told by state troopers is that troopers feared that Boelter might be in the area, that he might be in one of these houses, that he might have threatened people who lived there in order to remain in hiding. So they were asking everyone to come out. They had gone through that. They had told me that state troopers were very respectful, that it was done in a very orderly fashion. They complied. It didn't take too long before their house was cleared. And then they had proceeded to come up where we were on 291st Avenue because they wanted to let troopers know that there was another property to be aware of. So, yes, we talked to them. I talked to them, and I talked to a couple of other people this afternoon, many of whom were just driving by on their way home. I think people were eager to be inside.
Okay. Melissa, we really appreciate your reporting today and the time it took. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome, Kathy.
That's Melissa Olson, Minnesota Public Radio reporter. It's 10:30, and we're waiting for a live news conference with Governor Tim Walz and various other law enforcement officials to talk about the arrest tonight of Vance Boelter, the suspected gunman who is suspected of shooting and killing former Speaker of the House Melissa Hortman and her husband, and also shooting and gravely wounding DFL Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Matt Sepik, we sent him out to Blaine. He evidently is there and awaiting start of this news conference. This is eerily familiar here, my friend. You and I were doing the very same thing here not more than a few hours ago. So you are out in Blaine, and how far away are we from the start of this news conference, do you think?
Well, no word yet. I still see reporters here trickling in, and there are, it seems, even more than there were here at that news conference when we spoke last at 5:30. As you mentioned, Governor Tim Walz is expected here. I would imagine that we'll hear from Drew Evans, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension superintendent, who's been kind of taking the lead in terms of speaking to the public on the status of the investigation. And, it's interesting, just to kind of follow up on what Clay said that I heard as I was driving up here from Minneapolis. There really wasn't a whole lot that they said at that 5:30 news conference other than it remains an active investigation. That was just a few hours ago. And this just goes to show how quickly these types of investigations can change and be resolved. In this case, from the sounds of things, peacefully. The suspect gave up, put his hands in the air when he spotted that drone in the sky.
I'm sure we're going to hear more about this. Evidently, our colleagues at KARE 11, AJ Lago, got a hold of the criminal complaint that is charging Vance Boelter with murder. Indicates that Senator John Hoffman's daughter was the one that called 911 and said a masked man had come to their door and shot her parents. So I'm sure once these criminal complaints are unsealed, as it looks like that's happening at this point, we'll find out more about what exactly happened. You mentioned here, Matt, the earlier news conference today where it just didn't seem like they had a whole lot to say. But I did find it interesting to still listen to. They had the mayor of Champlin and also the mayor of Brooklyn Park at the podium. And it was the officer, was it not, from Champlin who, upon responding to the Hoffman residence at Champlin, I don't know who it was, a sergeant perhaps, had the presence of mind to call Brooklyn Park to say, hey, you might want to check on Speaker Hortman. Right.
Yeah, that one call, that initial call in Champlin led to the incident at at the Hortman home in Brooklyn Park, where
Mm-hmm.
there was an exchange of gunfire with the suspect, who then fled out the back door and got away somehow. Apparently, we'll probably find that out soon in that other vehicle that was found abandoned this morning. And I'm sounding a little hesitant here because I'm keeping an eye out for the door to see when the public officials may be coming in here to speak. But obviously, a very big break in this investigation.
Absolutely, and of course, it's an international story, and I noted that we have the major networks, reporters from the major networks in town for this as well. Say, I'm wondering, is Clay Masters with us, by the way?
I am here, yep.
Thank you, Clay Masters, for also being with us. I'm going to let Matt Sepik kind of keep an eye to the door to see if the governor's going to walk in. I'm wondering here also, Clay, what really concerned many people, of course, part of it was mentioned a bit during this last news conference here earlier today, was this list of about 70 names that was found in the vehicle of the suspect Vance Boelter, recovered from what was a kind of a fake police vehicle that was left at the crime scene. And the list of names included some prominent, state and federal lawmakers. And I'm wondering, when you had a chance to talk to lawmakers, just again, we touched on this earlier tonight, but just that alone was such a chilling part of this whole story, to know that he had kind of a hit list in a sense.
That's right. And in that earlier press conference, Drew Evans with the BCA declined to speak about a possible motive. They referred to this as a manifesto several times, but said that it wasn't what we maybe think of what that would be, where there's a lot of sentences and details about it, but it was lists and addresses and some other, they were fairly vague about it. We did learn the names of other lawmakers who were on it when we were breaking this news on, I guess, just yesterday, Saturday morning. Attorney General Keith Ellison, U.S. Senator Tina Smith. We'll certainly have more information about what was in that list. But, yeah, it's created quite the concern among lawmakers and just among people throughout the community, wondering, different high-profile advocates for various left-leaning causes. Again, we don't want to say that there were any motives as to what it was, but certainly that will become more clear as we learn more now that they have, again, apprehended Vance Boelter, and we'll learn more here in just a moment, I suppose.
Right, exactly. And I believe Drew Evans, as you say, clarified, he described the materials Saturday as a manifesto, but then it said, kind of walked that back, that the papers were not really a political or ideological treatise.
Right.
As you say, more of a notebook with names, addresses, and that kind of thing, which is still, don't get me wrong, it was absolutely chilling. Yeah. And evidently, Boelter's friends said to other reporters that he was a conservative individual, very religious, but didn't really talk about politics. Didn't harp on it too much at all. And so, the governor described the killing of Speaker Hortman as politically motivated, violence, a politically motivated assassination. So I'm sure we'll probably hear more about that as well.
Yeah, I would imagine we would. The governor, of course, yesterday morning came out and gave those initial remarks, and we've seen a couple statements, including flags flying at half-mast, but we really haven't heard much from him since he took to the podium. As you mentioned, we've been hearing about some of the roommates that Boelter had at the home of his longtime friend, David Carlson, had actually received a text message from Boelter early Saturday, allegedly telling his friend that he would be gone for a while and maybe dead shortly. So certainly this was something that had been planned, especially if he was communicating with friends. Law enforcement has also been hesitant to say that he didn't have any accomplices. So maybe we'll learn more about whether or not there are others. We're just waiting for that door to open and Matt Sepik to give us the word that we're going to learn some more here pretty shortly.
Right. In case if you're tuning in, if you're listening on the stream, nprnews.org, it's 8:38 Sunday night, and we are waiting word from Governor Tim Walz and other state officials on the particulars of this arrest of the suspect, Vance Boelter, the man suspected of shooting former state House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark in their Brooklyn Park home in the wee hours of Saturday morning, killing both of them. Also shooting and seriously wounding DFL State Senator John Hoffman and his wife in their Champlin home, again, early in the morning, Saturday morning. And since that time, after the shootings, he evidently had enough time to go back to Minneapolis, change clothes, was wearing a cowboy hat and a jacket the last time he was picked up on security camera footage in Minneapolis, and thus commenced a manhunt that has taken to this point tonight when he was finally arrested. And as we were talking with Melissa Olson earlier tonight here, the search in Sibley County, which is southwest of the Twin Cities metro area, lasted all day long. And actually, Boelter has property in that general area of Green Isle, Minnesota. So there were searches initially in that area, and then law enforcement went back this morning when a car was found on Highway 25 between Green Isle and Belle Plaine, and that started this large-scale search. And as we were talking about earlier, evidently Boelter was spotted by a drone and was crawling through farm fields when he was spotted by the drone. And then, of course, law enforcement closed in on him and evidently yelled, "Surrender," and he did with his hands up. And there's a photograph that has been posted on social media by Ramsey County Sheriff Bob Fletcher of the suspect being taken into custody. He looks like he's pretty surprised. Officers evidently, gentlemen, Peter Cox is with us and also Clay Masters. We're getting word from the Associated Press that officers searched that vehicle that they found and found at least 3 AK-47s, a 9mm handgun, a ballistic vest, another gun, a mask, names and addresses of other public officials, and a gold police-style badge as some of the things they found in the car, according to the Associated Press. Law enforcement officials telling the AP what they found. And again, we'll hear more of the details of the investigation coming up here shortly. Also, I want to, Peter Cox, I hope you're still with us here.
Yes.
What I'm trying to think here in terms of you mentioned, and I really appreciate the updates that you gave us on Senator Hoffman and his wife. I'm wondering what else have you been covering when it comes to this particular story? What else have you been focusing on?
Well, I did a little bit of background on Boelter and kind of what his online presence has been. Looking through his LinkedIn presence, it looks like he's been in the food production world, but he had also been trying to start a security company in the Twin Cities. And there's kind of a strange connection, but on that site, there was a vehicle that looked like a police car, and they said they do armed security. But when he came up to Hoffman's house, it was in a black-looking police car with blue and white and red lights in it. He had printed out, it appeared, police license plates that he put on the front and the back. And he was police said he was wearing a police uniform that they said if he had walked into the press conference on the first day, we would have thought he was a police officer. So clearly he was using that as a kind of way to get around. When they arrived at the Hortman residence on Saturday morning, that car was in the driveway with its lights on. And there's a strange, kind of chilling photo of him, kind of an overhead shot. I'm not sure where this was taken, but he's wearing a full mask, kind of a bald mask, and then wearing the police uniform and his ballistics vest. So clearly there was a certain amount of planning that went into this.
And Peter Cox, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Actually, what we're going to do is go live right now to Blaine and Governor Tim Walz and other law enforcement officials talking about the arrest tonight of Vance Boelter.
So we are good and squared away on this. First, you will be hearing from Minnesota Governor Walz. After that, Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Jacobson. After that, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Superintendent Drew Evans, Evans. After that, you'll be hearing from Brooklyn Park Police Department Chief Mark Bruley, Mark Bruley, and then State Patrol Colonel Geiger, Geiger. What's his first name? Yep. I'm sorry, I'll get that for you. What's the last one? Lieutenant Colonel Geiger from the Minnesota State Patrol. Yep. Yes.
Jeremy. J-A-R-E-M-Y. What was that?
Jeremy.
Common spelling.
What's Bruley's last name? Mark with a K.
Yes, Bruley.
And it's Jeremy, G-E-I-G-E-R.
G-E-I-G-E-R.
It's always important to have the correct spelling of names of those who will be speaking. So this is going to be a pretty large news conference, as you might imagine. There are some very relieved individuals. I can only imagine the family members must be they're obviously heartbroken but relieved that there's finally an arrest. And so there are going to be a number of law enforcement officials talking about this, various state officials, and of course, Governor Tim Walz. I do not have actually the feed of the news conference in front of me, so it's kind of tough to tell what we're doing here. However, I can tell you that we are doing some setup of cameras and doing some last-minute tweaks of the audio and that kind of a thing. We do happen to have, and we will be talking about this too, the charging documents. They've been released, and just kind of quickly going through some of these, and it's really hard to read the charging documents, I will tell you that. We will pass those along, of course, when we have the opportunity to do that. We may hear a little bit from the various individuals who will be speaking here at this news conference about what's contained in these charging documents. While I'm waiting here for this setup, I just want to quickly, and I mentioned the families. We have not heard from the Hortman family, the children, but the Hoffman family has just released a statement that this is from Yvette and John Hoffman. First and foremost, John and I hold a deep and profound gratitude for the work of our law enforcement agencies and the public for their help in bringing the suspect to justice while diligently keeping our community safe during this extremely difficult and senseless event. John and I are both incredibly lucky to be alive. I'll finish this statement after we hear.
Good evening. After a two-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Boelter. That's 48 hours that law enforcement involved in a complex and dangerous manhunt. Spent Father's Day away from their families to deliver justice for Melissa and Mark Hortman and their children who spent this Father's Day alone. To the law enforcement who stand here and the hundreds who are involved in this, the state of Minnesota owes you a deep debt of gratitude. Thank you. You ran towards the danger and you served the state of Minnesota. This is a great example of coordination and collaboration. Multiple agencies, federal, state, and local, coordinating together in a way to protect the public and close this hunt around. Multiple agencies were there as FBI laid hands on it and Minnesota State Patrol put the handcuffs on. One man's unthinkable actions have altered the state of Minnesota. Melissa Hortman was the core of who our values were. She had a hand in so many things that happened, The building that we stand in, she helped usher through so that we could respond from the State Emergency Operations Center with the professionalism and giving the tools necessary to law enforcement to do their job. To Melissa and Mark's family, I cannot fathom your pain and the grief that you're going through. We'll take solace in the memory and the work that Melissa did, and you can rest assured that we will put every ounce of effort that the state of Minnesota has to make sure that justice is served and the individual responsible for this serves the time for the unspeakable act. State grieves with you. To John and Yvette Hoffman, the latest news is Senator Hoffman came out of his final surgery and is moving towards recovery. Yvette is healing. And I think when the story comes out, and I'd like to say on behalf of the state of Minnesota, the heroic actions by the Hoffman family and their daughter Hope saved countless lives, and we are grateful. Bureau of Criminal Apprehension will continue to investigate. We will keep you informed. We'll spare no expense and no work to make sure that that happens. A moment in this country where we watched violence erupt. This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country. And each and every one of us can do it. Talk to a neighbor rather than arguing. Debate an issue. Shake hands. Find common ground. This is who Melissa Hortman was. In the first negotiating session that I had a chance to work with her, she got all the partners in the room, and she provided each and every one of us a copy of a book called Getting to Yes. And the whole premise was debating with a sense of goodwill, a sense of trying to come to compromises that serve everyone. And because of her, we did that. Because of her, we did that year after year after year. That's the embodiment of how things are supposed to work. It's not about hatred. It's not about mean tweets. It's not about demeaning someone. It's leading with grace and compassion and vision and compromise and decency. That was taken from us in Minnesota with the murder of Speaker Hortman. So for each and every one of us to truly honor, and we will continue to honor that spirit, but we will need to do it in just more than actions in a memorial. Conducting ourselves in the spirit that Melissa Hortman did her work is what the country needs to heal. I will once again say the deep debt of gratitude. These professionals standing behind us and countless others. This was, you'll hear from them, incredibly complex. And to take this suspect in with no life of life or injuries to civilian population and to bring him in alive so he can serve justice, which he will do in Minnesota, is an incredible thing that we are grateful for. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the professionals, starting with Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Minnesota, Bob Jacobson. Thank you.
Good evening. It's good to see you all here tonight. Thank you for coming in. My name is Bob Jacobson. I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety. And again, it's my honor to serve in that position. First of all, I want to thank all of the law enforcement agencies that have been working tirelessly over the past 2 years since the shooting at Senator Hoffman's home. The coordination between state, local, and federal law enforcement partners is the reason we are here tonight, and the suspect is in custody. Boelter exploited the trust our uniforms are meant to represent. That betrayal is deeply disturbing to those of us who wear the badge with honor and responsibility. We want to thank community members across the state for their support, for their tips, and their information. And I want to thank Governor Walz for his continued support through this very difficult time. With that, I will pass this off to Superintendent Drew Evans of the BCA. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Drew Evans. I'm Superintendent of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. As was noted and was previously described, Vance Boelter was taken into custody in Sibley County. We were with you earlier today when we provided information about the manhunt and the myriad of law enforcement that have come together working in partnership so that this evil cannot be continued. The first step in a case like this is that we take him into custody, and then the work will continue and begin to make sure that we have all the evidence we need to ensure that he is held accountable for his crimes. Please bear with me, but I think it's important because it has been noted by the governor, just to give you some background on the teams that were down there, and I may even be missing some in terms of this because there were law enforcement partners, not just from the Twin Cities, but across the state of Minnesota that came together. From the Brooklyn Park Police Department, the Tri-City SWAT Team, Eagan Police Department, Burnsville Police Department, our South Metro SWAT Team, the FBI, ATF, United States Marshal Service, State Patrol, Washington County Sheriff's Office, Ramsey County Sheriff's Office, the Richfield Police Department, St. Paul Police Department, Bloomington Police Department, Sibley County. We had Riverview Medics, Green Isle Fire Department, and Lifelink in the area, in addition to Prior Lake, Crow River SWAT, and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. And again, I may have been missing, and I apologize to my partners for that we do that. I share all of that for you because that's the commitment when this sort of evil is in one of our communities, that law enforcement comes together to put all of their resources together to make sure that that person is taken into custody. That is so that people across the state of Minnesota and legislators that were targeted in these attacks and that may have been listed can breathe a sigh of relief as quickly as possible as we came together in an incredibly complex set of circumstances in that. He was arrested, as you saw earlier this evening, in the area of 35600 block of 200th Street, Green Isle. What happened in that is, as we noted, there was a manhunt going throughout the day in that area that we've discussed previously, and there was information provided that he was seen in the area. When that information was provided to the investigators that were conducting the ground search, they converged on the area with a number of SWAT teams with the assistance of the Air Wing from Minnesota State Patrol, and we'll provide a few more details about the end of coming into custody in a little bit, but he was taken into custody at that time. He is in custody, and a reminder for anybody that was not, when we've previously said that, taken into custody under a state criminal warrant. That information will be made public, if it is not already, detailing the complaint that he is charged in the cases at this time with the murders of Speaker Hortman and her husband, Mark Hortman, also with the shootings in John Hoffman and Yvette Hoffman for those crimes, and will be moving forward. We are also in close contact with our federal partners, both the FBI, United States Attorney's Office, who are examining whether or not additional charges should be brought at the federal level related to this at this time. There is a lot of investigation that continues, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief Bruley to provide some comments on this and the work. I just want to tell, certainly for the communities of Champlin, City of Brooklyn Park, you both have incredibly professional police departments that work day in, day out and tirelessly in this situation to bring justice and work towards that, not only for the families and the loved ones and the community that are impacted, but for the entire state of Minnesota. And our teams are incredibly proud to work alongside them and all the law enforcement partners. And so with that, I will turn it over to Chief Bruley for some comments on this, and the work will continue in partnership with them and others moving forward. Chief.
Good evening. I'm Police Chief Mark Bruley, Brooklyn Park Police Department. Just a few comments. One, I'm very proud to tell you that we took the suspect into custody who's responsible for this. That was within 43 hours of the incident. There's no question that this is the largest manhunt in the state's history. Just down at the scene where he was taken into custody, there was 20 different SWAT teams over an extremely large area hunting this individual down to take him into custody. I believe that the state of Minnesota and certainly the city of Brooklyn Park should be extremely proud of the police officers within the city of Brooklyn Park, but the partnerships that we had are unprecedented between the federal agents, the county, the locals, and others around. It is absolutely an incredible task what went on. Essentially, the Brooklyn Park Police Department was turned over into an operations center, and that's all that hundreds of detectives worked on tirelessly for 43 hours. So while this has come to some conclusion where we've made an arrest, there is a ton of work that needs to be done. So I encourage community members, if there's evidence, information, or other things, please continue to feed that information to the Brooklyn Park Police Department so that we can fully investigate this and present a complete case to both the federal jurisdiction and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. With that, I'll turn it over to the State Patrol.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Geiger. I'm the Lieutenant Colonel with the Minnesota State Patrol, the Assistant Chief. The Minnesota State Patrol, along with countless other partners, were responsible for this arrest. The collaborative effort, I cannot stress enough how outstanding that was, helped ensure the suspect's arrest did not result in the injury of any law enforcement that was down there and in the area. We had special response teams on the scene near 200 streets in Sibley County. Several partner law enforcement SWAT teams positioned to form a perimeter at that point in time. The State Patrol also provided the air support that was talked about earlier today. The suspect crawled to law enforcement teams and was placed under arrest at that point in time. There was no use of force by any member of law enforcement that was out there, and the suspect was taken into custody without any use of force. Thank you.
With that, we will open it up for a few questions. Reminder, please introduce yourself, your media organization. If you have a question for one of the specific individuals, please feel free to point that out as well.
Vance Boelter with NBC News. Can I ask anyone up here who can speak to it, did the suspect make any key mistakes that you feel like led to his mental capture?
You know, the question is were there any key mistakes? We certainly, at this point, there's a lot of information we can't share right now in this. What I will tell you is there's some incredibly dedicated law enforcement personnel, criminal intelligence analysts that were out working day in, day out, working together. And what I will tell you is that that the public certainly is always of assistance to us in law enforcement, and incredibly diligent people in the area that provided us the assistance that we needed to get our teams that were already down there that last piece over. But they were certainly in the area and working diligently together on that.
One's got to be one at a time, guys.
Drew, we're welcome for 11. Do you have any indication that anyone helped him?
The question is any indication anybody helped him? We continue to look into that. I don't have anything beyond what we shared earlier today. This investigation, as Chief Bruley noted, will be continuing to expand at this point in time to make sure that we continue to look at all angles of this. And everybody did help him. We will certainly hold them accountable for doing that in this process.
Drew, Adrian Rogers from NBC News. Can you tell us how the Hoffmans helped save lives, and what did the suspect say when he was taken into custody?
The question was how the Hoffmans helped save lives, and I don't have the specific. And then what did he say when he was taken into custody? I don't have the specifics on what he said when he was taken into custody. You know, we're incredibly grateful that the Hoffmans are still here with us at this point in time, and that they will be hopefully on a continued path to recovery, and that they will provide us the information. We've been able to talk to them today, and they will be providing key information to us as part of this investigation moving forward.
Did the suspect have a phone with him when he was caught? Was he tracked in any way, or was he just citing his tips?
At the end, the question is, did he have a phone with him? I don't have the specifics on everything that was with him when he was arrested at this time. I will say he was armed, and that he came when he was taken into custody, but we'll be sifting through all of that information from there. What's that? I can't on the weapons at this time. So.
Paul Bloom, Fox 9. Just kind of elaborating on sort of the Hoffman question. To me, the encounter at that Speaker Hortman's house with, I believe, was Brooklyn Park Police, the gunfire there, the fact that he then had to abandon that vehicle with several weapons. You've now seen the unsealed criminal complaint. How significant was that in preventing any further tragedy and ending it with him on the ground in Sibley County a couple hours ago?
The question is, again, expanding on the Hoffmans and providing addition. What I'll tell you, Chief Bruley mentioned this yesterday, and his police officers going to check proactively on Speaker Hortman's home at that time. If that had not happened, I have every confidence that this would have continued throughout the day by his officers encountering him at that. It was forced to abandon the vehicle that he had at that time and lead to what we got to today. So by that incident occurring and the law enforcement communication that was occurring, it allowed the proactive approach that was able to get to the point where they were able to now eventually take him into custody today.
And just one other clarity question on
Cool.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, there's a little bit of detail that the Ramsey County Sheriff has provided. I just wanted to see if we can nail it down. So it said the detail that he had provided in the Star Tribune is that for about an hour, Boelter had tried to evade arrest and that 8 teams crawled in a ditch to try to corral him. I don't know if you have that level of detail, but additionally, because you were able to take him into custody without incident, what did your law enforcement officers say to him to warn about him and how he was
So the question is about the teams and then what was done to get him into custody. So we don't get into operational details for the safety of our law enforcement going forward in terms of what it is. But what I can say is the incredible teamwork that was done and the large number of law enforcement certainly put us in a position where they were able to maneuver into this area to safely put him in a place where, you know, I don't know what was going through his head and I wouldn't speculate, but they have incredibly professional teams that are trained on this and how to take somebody into custody, and they provided the commands and he gave up peacefully.
Thank you. Superintendent Jonah Champlin from WCCO and CBS News. First, if you could just speak personally for you and all your colleagues. I imagine this is a relief for a lot of you. Can you talk about what it means to you personally to have this done? Only a few hours ago, you weren't sure if he was in the state, let alone in the country.
Yeah, the question is the relief for all of us. I mean, the relief for us in law enforcement is we feel an incredible amount of pressure to bring a person into custody, bring safety to the community. These professionals behind me and their teams, this is what they do. This is what they get paid to do, and they're honored to do the work on behalf of Minnesotans every single day. So the relief is that we can bring that sense of relief to communities across Minnesota, legislators that were on that list, and that's what we want to do.
Superintendent. At what point did you get the call and from whom generally that he was in that area?
The question was on the call and when did we get it. It was happening over the time. I don't have the specific timeline, but we were alerted as soon as there was a spotting of the person in the area for all of the command staff here, and as our teams continue to work and as they worked in and honed in.
Can you speak a little more about the technology that was used? You said today earlier that you received about 400 tips.
Yeah.
We know there was surveillance footage that was used for pictures. You just mentioned, or someone talked about the air team. Was it a fixed wing? Was it a helicopter that was following him? What role did technology play?
Yeah, the question is what role, and I can't get into all the technology, obviously. Just some of it is that we don't share the information to make sure that we protect it so it's utilized going forward. However, I will say that both UAVs throughout the day are incredibly important to our teams, unmanned aerial vehicles that we use, that there were numerous ones out there providing that, and then our helicopter in this situation provides an incredibly important bird's eye view that also allows us special views to be able to see individuals such as infrared and others that we utilize on a regular basis. So technology in cases like this are incredible tools to be able to supplement the great hard work of all the people that were on the ground every day. Let's go here first.
Where's he being held?
So right now he is being interviewed at a law enforcement facility. More information on where he will actually be ultimately will be released at a later time.
What law enforcement agency or facility?
I can't share where he is currently, but that information will be available soon.
How more specific about the setting in which he was? I know there are things you can't give away, but we see things like trails and fields. They talked about him crawling. What can you tell us about where he was hiding?
Yeah, so this is, where was he hiding? This is in a rural area. These are fields and different wooded settings around, and that's where he was ultimately captured. Sibley County is, a rural county in the state of Minnesota, and so it's what a lot of that streams, fields, woods, crops, and so where he was ultimately taken into custody was in a field.
Did the infrared technology help find him, identify him for you?
I don't.
The commissioner had mentioned some of that earlier. I wonder if that's something that helped.
Yes, absolutely. It assisted previously, and they were out there. The helicopter was out there before the sun went down. But after that happened, yes, that technology did come into play.
How long did you know that he was there?
I'll turn that back over to the superintendent here too, but I don't think that that information is available right now.
Mark Ruley, Police Chief, Brooklyn Park. The question is how long did we know that he was there? A vehicle that we believed that he was in was spotted many hours before and had been abandoned. An alert police officer believed that he may have seen the individual running into the woods, and that started a large-scale perimeter that we set up, or down in Sibley County set up, and we started to deploy resources, including the Brooklyn Park SWAT team, and along with many other SWAT teams, to contain an extremely large area, knowing that this is a very dangerous individual. During that, we got privy to additional information of an individual that was in the woods, and that search went on for many hours until ultimately we were able to locate him in the woods. And in approximately an hour and a half or so, we were able to close the distance in with the technology and the State Patrol helicopter, and where we were able to call him out to us. Yeah, it's absolutely way too soon to say that right now. That's where the investigation, we have been just solely focused on the manhunt. And the goal is to give some calm to the situation of many individuals that were on the list that were worried about their safety. And this is a very dangerous individual for our community, and that's why so many resources and such a great collaboration came together to focus on removing him from society so that we can restore some sort of calm and bring some healing to our community and to our state. Now begins the hard work of looking at what the motive is, looking at putting this case together, and so that's yet to come.
Hey, Mark, who's working on people that were on the list? What other? I know there are politicians from Wisconsin on this. What other states had people on this?
It was multiple states. I don't have the exhaustive list, but it was multiple states that were on there.
Do you have some states that were on the list?
We can. There's a few. I don't want to say it because it won't be exhaustive, but Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, some others that were on there. There was a variety. Nebraska, Iowa. We've had contact. What I will tell you, and I will not get into any more specifics beyond that, we are in coordination with our federal partners and our fusion centers in those states to coordinate with local law enforcement and the FBI in those states and the state fusion centers that are there to be able to provide that information and notify those individuals that they were on that list.
Are you concerned that there's other people out there that could have been working with them?
The question is, are we concerned there's other people out there that could be working with them? We will fully explore that. I've said on this, we are relatively confident, we are confident that the violence that he committed and the murders he committed and the attempted murders, that he conducted that activity alone. We will be exploring if there are any broader network. We have not uncovered any of that at this time, but that will be part of our investigation, and we will fully explore that. So thank you.
Thank you. Bill. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Coverage of a news conference with Governor Tim Walz, various law enforcement authorities about the arrest tonight of the suspected assassin of former House Speaker Melissa Hortman. Vance Boelter was taken alive by authorities pretty close to Green Isle, Minnesota tonight around 7:30 or so. To recap, evidently a trail cam photo captured an image of Boelter. A resident alerted police. SWAT teams went to that area. He was told to surrender, and he did. The 57-year-old is in custody some 43 hours after the shootings amid this huge coordinated law enforcement effort. Matt Sepik was at that news conference, got a question in with the other national and Minnesota news media there. What surprised you? What did you hear that you were surprised to have learned?
Well, we learned that this list, initially called a manifesto that was allegedly recovered from Boelter's vehicle at Hortman's home, included the names of people, potential targets in other states. We had reported previously that Wisconsin officials were on the list, but Superintendent Drew Evans just said in the last few minutes that Illinois, Michigan, and Nebraska, and also Iowa officials were on that list. He didn't say that it was exhaustive and didn't get into any other details beyond that, but it sounds as if the suspect in this case had his sights on a lot of other potential victims. Another thing that is worth noting too is the police chief in Brooklyn Park, Mark Bruley, said that the police or other officials here have said that that welfare check on the Hortmans' home after the shooting at the Hoffmans' home likely saved a lot more lives, given that there's that list, and that the suspect could have been continuing to go and shoot had Brooklyn Park police not arrived at Melissa and Mark Hortman's home in Brooklyn Park, saw that what appeared to be a police-like vehicle in their driveway and exchanged gunfire with Boelter. He ran out the back door, as we've heard previously. So yeah, definitely some new information here at this news conference.
And I'm sure we'll learn more as the days go on. I think someone asked this question. Any indication, and this is what a lot of people want to know, any indication that someone helped Boelter?
Well, that was the last question that a reporter asked, and Drew Evans said, initially we're fairly confident that he acted, and then he corrected himself. He said, we're confident that he acted alone in this killing and in these shootings. So it does not appear that they're looking for anybody else, but he did note that the investigation is still going on. There's the possibility of federal charges in addition to the murder and attempted murder charges that are in this state warrant. And they're asking the public too to be on the lookout for any clues that they may see, any other evidence that could help build the investigation. There's a criminal complaint here that I'm looking at charging Boelter with second-degree murder. But in Minnesota, under the law, in order to get a life sentence without parole, which is, I'm sure, what prosecutors will be seeking here, at least on the state level, that requires the action and the vote of a grand jury. So I would imagine they didn't mention anything about this. There were not prosecutors at this news conference, but this I could see very easily soon going to a grand jury in Hennepin County to review charges of premeditated first-degree murder, which carries an automatic life without parole sentence in Minnesota.
So there's still a lot of work left to do. Matt Sepik, speaking of work, I know you've got to get up early tomorrow morning and do some work along with the Morning Edition team, so I'm going to let you go.
All right, we'll both be there.
Yeah, that's right. That's our Matt Sepik. Governor Walz mentioned this, and I want to reiterate this. It's a sober note, but something that needs to be said. Today's Father's Day, and it was, I'm sure, a heartbreaking day for the kids of Mark Hortman, who was shot to death in his own home, along with his wife, former Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, in the wee hours of Saturday morning. There are no words. The charging documents released tonight, I got a little peek of them, indicate that police witnessed the shooting of Mark Hortman and exchanged gunfire with the suspect, who then ran back into the house in Brooklyn Park and then fled out the back. DFL State Representative Hortman, of course, as you all know, was found dead inside. I just can't imagine the pain of the Hortman family. In a statement released tonight by John and Yvette Hoffman, who are recuperating in a hospital after being shot multiple times, they say, quoting now, they have a deep and profound gratitude for the work of our law enforcement agencies and the public for their help in bringing the suspect to justice. There is never a place for senseless political violence and loss of life. We are devastated by the loss of Melissa and Mark, and our hearts go out to all those who knew and loved them both. And of course, this is from two individuals who have a long road in their recovery after being shot multiple times, allegedly by this suspect. I see more public officials are posting on socials tonight. They are relieved and they are very grateful that Vance Boelter is in custody. We will have the very latest tomorrow morning on Morning Edition. And at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Angela Davis is going to dive into the burgeoning and troublesome problem of political violence in this country. I'm Kathy Worzer. I wish you a good night. We're going to go back to the BBC. This is BBC Newsday at 11:17. All of it's difficult.